Welcome to Bursting Through, the storytelling movement where love, compassion, and empathy take center stage. I'm Steve Peterson. Our conversations will shine light on real stories of allyship, the moments where people choose connection over division, courage over silence, and love over fear. Today's guest is Robert Banghart, an inspiring figure in Nevada's healthcare and addiction recovery landscape. As Director of Community Engagement at Crossroads of Southern Nevada, the state's largest indigent detox and substance use disorder treatment center, he plays a critical role in supervising vulnerable populations. Robert's work extends to the Shine a Light Foundation, where he serves as VP of Community Integration and sits on the executive board, providing resources to those battling addiction. Additionally, he contributes his expertise to the advisory boards of St. Jude's and Nick's New Beginning. A 2023 Leadership Las Vegas graduate, he hones his community leadership skills to drive positive change. His personal triumph, maintaining long-term recovery since 2018, adds profound authenticity to his advocacy. Through dedication and compassion, Robert continues to transform lives in addiction recovery and community outreach. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to talk to you. I've been really looking forward to this. So we're just going to dive right into it. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say and learning from you.
Awesome. Let's go.
All right. So you have been in recovery since 2018. That
Yep.
lived experience adds such authenticity to the roles you hold today. Can you share part of your recovery story and what most shaped the purpose work that you're doing now?
Sure. I'm a lifelong heroin addict. I'm somebody that believes I was born addicted, alcoholic. That mindset, that mental obsession that we talk about, and the spiritual malady. That's my story, right? I remember being very young and restless, irritable, and discontent. I didn't fit. I was a 10 or a 1. And when I say early on, I mean 5, 7, 9. Very early ages, I didn't feel like I fit in this world. And you ask my mom, and she'll tell you that I was a happy kid. I was smiling in pictures, and she's right. I was, and I had a good upbringing. My parents were my mom, my stepfather. They raised me, and my stepfather is my dad, right? And so I didn't go without, right? I had meals, supportive systems, all this stuff, but I gravitated towards things. So for me, my alignment was always off, if that makes sense, right? Like I was always drifting towards things and seeking relief and from this uncomfortable feeling that I had inside of me. So then, of course, drugs and alcohol became very prevalent in my life at a very early age. I was, somebody that's experienced incarceration at a very young age, spent about 9 years of my life chopped up and giving it away to the state and to the, county. And eventually homelessness played a part, right? At the tail end, I'd been in recovery for a couple of years. It was a very ugly trip through recovery for me, very egocentric. And, of course, my classic recovery escape plan. I stopped doing the exact things that helped me get where I was at. And I started taking credit for things. And boom, I relapsed and I was homeless within a month of that relapse. My homelessness was very progressive, just like my addiction on alcoholism. And eventually, the last 2.5 years of it, I lived underground our city. I lived in a tunnel for 2.5 years. And the last day I was out there, I was attacked by 3 other guys that I'd known from the streets, and they killed me essentially. They hit me with a hatchet, a knife, and a pipe a bunch of times, and dragged me onto some train tracks and left me for dead. So for me, I use the word God a lot. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is for me, and I'm not, in any way trying to. I'm just sharing my own experience with it, right? I have a really big God in my life, and what happened was I had no idea that there was a security guard working that I had befriended over the years that saw it all happen. I had no idea he was there. He called the ambulance. He called the metro. They come. They pull me off the train tracks. I'm dead. I've got a knife sticking out of my leg. My skull's been cracked multiple times. My jaw's broken. My liver's lacerated, and I'm purple. I'm dead. And they drag me off the train tracks and they revive me. So I wake up and I've got my vision is all messed up, and I still think I'm fighting for my life. I've got a knife sticking out of my chaos, and the train is now coming, so it's loud, and They hit me with another shot of morphine and I died again. And I woke up 3 days later on life support in the hospital. And I woke up with the nurse standing over me. And the nurse was trying to, to her best efforts, calm me down, and how I received it was I'm still fighting for my life. She's yelling at me. She runs behind me. I think she hit the button again. And I felt a hand touch my forehead and there was nobody there. I felt a hand touch my forehead and I heard the words calm down. And for me, I felt the presence of what I choose to call God in that room. And it was so beautiful and peaceful. And I'd never, ever felt anything like that before in my life. And, I began my journey from there. I was on life support for like another 3 to 5 days, whatever that was. And eventually I got cleared. I got transitioned into a physical therapy hospital. I was there for like a month, month and a half. And really the miracle that happened in that hospital was that my friend Paul showed up. And he wasn't my friend at the time. We weren't really friends, but we knew each other for a while. And I don't think he said he's shared about this since that he didn't really like me that much. And I was very ugly. I shared earlier my first time through recovery was very egocentric. And but he had known my daughter. His my daughter and his son had played together a lot. So long story short, when I knew Paul, he wasn't doing so well. I had gone out, he had come in, he started doing very well. His son, my daughter, playing together, they become like best friends. And so when they all reached out and said, "Hey, Rob's in the hospital," he was working in treatment, so he said, "Okay, I'm going to go." He really came for my daughter, not for me. You know what I mean? And whatever the reasoning was, I don't care. It all worked out perfectly. But he came and he offered me a scholarship into a treatment center. In that moment, for me, it was not. I can't wait to do this again. I'm so excited. Thank you for this opportunity. It was really like my willingness in that moment was just okay. Like I know I don't want to be doing what I'm doing anymore. I don't know that I want to do what you're talking about, but I know that I know where my way is going to get me. So let's give it a shot. And that was it. And really, I've just been saying okay for the last 7+ years.
So it was, yeah, it was really a moment of, oh, okay, let's try this. Let's
Yeah. Like I'm the definition of, I've got to be smashed. And I'm not by no means the only one, right? But for me, it's not. I share this because, somebody very close to me that I love and care about, who is much younger, is she made a decision, right? I didn't make a decision. I was beaten into submission. It doesn't no neither one is any better than the other. It just is what it is, right? But I'm that type. I'm the stubborn type that's got to ride it out to the rails. And that's not a badge of honor by any means, right? Like I wish I wasn't, but here we are.
right. And so, did you always know that about yourself, or was that part of your self-discovery, knowing that had to be beaten out of you and you couldn't make that or into you and you couldn't make that decision?
Yeah, I think lifelong, right? Like to a certain degree, and again, not a badge of honor by any means. It's just like so stubborn and such a clear cut definition of the disease of no choice, right? Like I can't take credit for that either. You know what I mean? Like I have this thing that will not allow me. Like right before I got attacked, like the death, I knew exactly what was about to happen, and I'm not like it's not some tough thing, right? It's not some bravado thing. I'm having the conversation with myself about what's about to happen and what should I run it as I'm walking already, because on the other side of them is what I need to get my next one. So for 42 years, I lived the disease of no choice, finally get smashed out of it. Thank God. And each of those men that attacked me, I've seen since in doing outreach, and I've thanked all of them. They did for me what I could not do for myself. Right? I was never going to come back in. I had been in recovery before. I knew where to go. I couldn't make that leap. I couldn't make that jump across. I couldn't come to shore. I couldn't do it. I had given up hope. The last year, 2 years I was out there, I was mad every time I woke up. Every time I overdosed, I was upset that you did that. Why did you save me? I had completely given up hope on life. I had accepted that I was going to die out there. So for me, that had to happen to shake me, get me into a place where I could even begin the process, right? Like just to say, okay,
So, so powerful that
God's
you
like that. Recovery is like that. You know what I mean? In all its forms and all its ways, there's no story that's better than anybody else's. This is just mine. And I mean that. Like, I own my story. I share it. I talk about it because it's powerful to me, just like everybody else's story is powerful to them. And I mean that. It's important.
so kind of on that note, so now as you work with the most vulnerable uh, communities and you've seen people uh, move from crisis to stability, what's something that the public often misunderstands about addiction or about the people that you work with and you serve?
Oh, wow. So that's right up my alley. I love this question. For me, it's always us and them, right? I think that's prevalent in a lot of areas of life today, right? It's always us and them. They want to divide us. They want us to pick sides, right? And that's as far as I'm going to go with that because I can go down a whole rabbit hole with that. But it's us and them, and it's not. It's just us. It's not our community and their community. It's ours. I lived homeless for many years in the same city as you. And when I saw you, it was like we were on different frequencies. You lived in a different level of the city than I did. How do we close that gap? Because when we ask them if they want to come in, we're asking them to give up everything they know. We're asking them to do something completely new and scary, right? And fight this disease, right? And it's much easier to do that when they believe the distance is not that far, right? I always tell this story. I share this many times. I'm a visual learner, so I think about things as they happen and how so I can understand it better for myself. And it's the gas station story, right? We all have that gas station. We leave work, whatever it is, we stop by, we're just comfortable. Well, I have one, and at mine, there was a guy outside for like 6 months. Every time I went, I'd see him and I'd talk to him, right? I always connect with him. He'd ask me for money. I don't give out money. It's not my thing. I've done it, but it's not typically my thing. And but I'd always offer to take him inside, get him a drink, get him a sandwich, whatever it was. For 6 months straight, no, 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 no. Of course, the day that I'm late, he says yes. Okay, cool. We go inside. I buy him everything he wants. When I tell you that I had one of the most beautiful interactions I've had with a human being, like I'm understating it. My stomach was sore. We were laughing so hard. It was like I was in there with my best friend. He poked me at one point. Like that's how intimate it was. We get to the register. He's got his bag of stuff. I pay for it. I hand it to him. I see him kind of drifting towards the door. Now I'm finishing up the transaction. He gets to the door. He can't open the door. He pauses. He sits there. He starts yelling and screaming and runs out of the store. The guy behind the register starts laughing. He goes, "See, why'd you do that?" When I tell you that I was so frustrated with this man, like, and I told him, I said, I did that because it's what's right. I said, you tell me why this guy's been outside your store for 6 months straight. And the first time somebody has a decent interaction with him, actually cares about him enough to buy him a sandwich, that his only way to react is to blow up. He doesn't even know how to close out the interaction. I said, that's what's wrong. That's what I don't want to be a part of. I said, it's not us and them. It's just us. They're in crisis. I'm not in crisis. He yells and screams and runs out. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. I love you. Like, he's in crisis. Am I the nicest person when I have a headache? Am I the nicest person when I'm sick? Am I the most thoughtful person when I'm running late? No, those are little crises to me today. This guy's in a real crisis. Like, why am I judging his behavior? I got to judge my own.
Yeah, and it's so important uh what you said there, that what is probably the most misunderstood, or one of the most misunderstood, is that these are these are human beings, and they're human beings in crisis. They're in a bad spot.
Somebody's
They're not.
brother, somebody's father, somebody's mom.
Yeah, and the us is also super powerful, and like there is a reason why I started bursting through, and the website is bursting through dot us.
Yeah.
Because
In a
we're
world where we're focused on this, right? Where basic human contact is at an all-time low. Empathy is at an all-time low. It's disconnection. We're not going to fix problems with disconnection. And community problems need community solutions.
Yeah. Yeah. And not nearly the same thing that you were talking about your gas station. But when I lived in New York, and I did for many years, um, I had a homeless friend. And how we became friends was every day I walked to work up 31st Street, and I worked on 7th Avenue between 31st and 32nd Street. And so, about a block and a half, 2 blocks from my office building, there was a Starbucks, and he stood outside there every day. And he was just the most, I was just so drawn to him because he was just a beautiful human being, right? He had this awesome smile and this light. And it's not a Starbucks I stopped at, but I saw him every day. And one day I just kind of stopped and started talking to him. And, we became friends, and I got to know a little bit about his story, and,
Yeah.
started bringing him a yogurt and, this sort of thing. And, at the end of the day, it's like, I know, I mean, I was just probably, I don't know, I was just trying to like do something kind. And I don't know that I had any other motivation. But the more I got to know him, the more I realized that it's like how different his life was, and how I was so ill-equipped to not be his friend, but be more than,
Yeah.
you know, uh, be more than that casual friend. Like, I mean, when I started hearing, his story and his lack of support and how he, ended up where he was, and it was heartbreaking.
And that's it. To your point, that would be my second thing. 6 out of 10 Americans live one critical incident away from being homeless, right? The homeless population is much bigger than we think it is. So I would guesstimate 60 to 75% of the country is either homeless or one critical incident away from being homeless. But we don't know what to do when things happen. So that it would be the education of learning what these things are, because think about your life. Pick 10 people and tell me which six you think are ready to be homeless right now. Know how to navigate the safety net, know where to go for resources, know what to do. Nobody does, right? We were trained as a society to what? We watched movies about football players, kings, dragons, these things, right? I didn't see any movies about being homeless or being an addict or what to do when services happen. It's just like the old that analogy of why were we not taught financial education in high school? Why were we not taught these things, these basic life skills, right? That we weren't taught. They weren't preparing us for life as it is. They were preparing us for life as they would like it to be, or they would have us imagine it to be. And I'm not trying to be negative. There's a lot of great things in the world too, but preparation is key, right? And we have to understand this stuff. And the fact that so few people do leaves it wide open for a lot of problems too, right? If you don't even know, there's so many organizations that report numbers. Oh, okay, I have 40% completion rate. What does that mean? Completion of what? An appointment or a year-long program, or so there's so much uh, uh, unbeknownst to people. You know what I mean? That the lack of information, education, that is scary.
Yeah, and you have said like so many, again, really important things there. Because to just pick up on the last thing you said, is that as a society and as a culture, we've become so data driven
100%.
that nothing else matters. That it's like it's just the data points and not the humanity. And it's like forgetting that the data comes from human beings,
Yeah.
right? And it's just it's and it's not like when you said, well, heck, you're not, trying to be negative or saying that everything's bad. And by no means are you, but somewhere along the lines, we lost the ability to talk about uncomfortable or bad things in a real way.
Yeah. Well, people don't want, I shouldn't say all people, but what I've seen is that kind of that not my backyard mentality, right? Is they don't want to believe it's their problem to deal with, or if they ignore it, it'll go away, or it's over there. And that never solves anything, right? It's just like prohibition doesn't solve drug use or alcoholism, right? It doesn't, it actually it helps it to a certain degree, right? So there's a lot of misnomers, a lot of miseducation, if or lack of education, right? There's plenty of things I don't know. My friend Teresa Sands says it, like if I don't know, I have to humble myself and go find somebody that does. I am by no means the president of recovery, and no, by no means. I'm just another dude out here trying to help people. You know what I mean? So, and then you take it back to the other side of follow the money, follow the money. COVID was 30 to 40% of the country. We shut the entire country down. I just told you 70 to 75% of the country's homeless or on the verge of being homeless. Do we feel like the same energy is being put into that issue? Not at all. Why? George Carlin said it best. Nobody's figured out how to make money off it. They
Yeah.
figured out how to make money off COVID.
Yeah. And there's a couple things that I was going to pick up on what you said. This like lack of empathy that has become a,
The
a
norm.
pandemic in itself,
Yeah.
an epidemic, a norm. And this is something that sticks with me, and I'm talking decades. It's like several, 2, 3 decades ago, I had someone very close to me going through a very hard time. And I was talking to another mutual friend about it and how just it was just tearing me apart. And his response was, this I'm saying this like 25 years ago, and it's always stuck with me, was, well, how does that really affect me? And I thought at first he was kidding. And then I realized, well, he's not kidding. He's like, well, they can't take away my wife, and that's not going to hurt my wife, and that's not going to hurt me, and that's not. And I was like, oh, I don't. I don't know what I guess I want you to do. I guess I want you to care about what we're
Try something.
talking about. Um, and I wasn't saying I had a solution to help the bad time somebody was going through, but it's like, well, having a conversation about it, uh, is important. And there's just so much of that. Like, and then what I'm picking up on is, you saying, well, not my backyard, and that's what I relate that it stuck with me all those years. It just rings in my head,
Yeah.
and it's like, because I just didn't think that person I was talking to was that person.
Yeah. You never think that
And
until
when
the
I,
rubber meets the road
yeah, thank you. When the rubber
or
met,
until
met
it's their
the
backyard.
road, it was,
Then it's a
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I also
uh,
think that we're not progressive in our solutions, right?
right.
We're still trying to wrest our way out of it. We're still trying to, prohibit all these things, and it hasn't worked. We've got 60, 70 years of data, you know, from prohibition till now that has not worked. It has never worked. They've never even seen progress in that arena. So now you see harm reduction under attack. Now you see these things that have been at the forefront of changing the overdose rates of change are now under attack. But the standard lock them up is not, right? But then you go back and you say, okay, what's the biggest business in America? Prisons. Private prisons is $75 billion a year. How many lobbyists do you think they have in DC making sure that they keep that narrative going, right? That's big money.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, our friends are dying. I
Yeah.
get 5 calls a week about overdoses. Like that's average. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. And I, I hope, um, this isn't our only conversation, because unfortunately we are kind of getting to the end of our conversation. So I'm gonna start wrapping it up. But I would love to, if you're open to it, continue this conversation, because there's so many things I think we can go deeper into that
definitely.
are just really aligned with what you do and what I do and what I'm about. That just human connection, and what's you know what's missing, and how are we missing each other. um but that being said, we always close with hope and action. So if you could, what are three concrete things allies can do to make the journey a little easier and better for people struggling with addiction or moving through recovery?
Ah, hold healthy boundaries, you know, uh, do your best to remove guilt and shame. You know, it's a rough process, especially early on, but we have to have boundaries without guilt and shame. I think that's always the most important and the hardest, right? Especially for those that have been experiencing the dark side of it with them. But it's a very brave act. And my mom did it, you know, my father, you know, my family did it for me, and then just be fluid, be fluid, you know, be fluid because it's a bumpy road. And there are bad days and good days and ups and downs, and there might be relapses. There could be you know what I mean? So be fluid with managing your expectations, right? Obviously, we have an expectation. We want healthy, you know, people, but managing it, making sure that it's not my expectation, right? What are their expectations? What do they want? What are they trying to do? And maybe for a fourth one day at a time, right? The classic answer, right? I'm not I'm not thinking about tomorrow right now. Today's a good day, you know, because it gives me grace and them as well, right? Like
Well, and if we could all spend a little bit more time, recovery or not, in the moment.
my thoughts is, and I'm not telling anybody what, you know, for me, everybody's in recovery. That's my truth. From something, somewhere, somehow. So maybe an ally isn't, you know, experiencing substance use disorder, but they are experiencing the life of a person with substance use disorder. So it's a whole separate recovery, but also joined.
Yeah, and again, when it boils down, it's about our shared humanity.
Period.
And you know, regardless of somebody's struggle, it's like we need people to show up for us in the way that we need,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Without
way that we
judgment.
need supported, or sometimes, in with tough love or, whatever, not to overuse a phrase, but, to show what the boundaries or, however, that might show up, but it's like in a way that is, you know, through the lens of humanity and through the lens of love and through the lens of, you know,
It's such a hard thing, man, when to be an ally you know, for lack of, I feel comfortable with an addict, with an alcoholic, you know, it's hard. It's hard. It's not easy. It's not an easy task. My mom didn't sleep for 42 years. So
yeah, it's,
yeah,
and it has been, uh, more than a pleasure to talk to you and, uh, have you welcome us into, your world and
thanks for
share a
having
bit
me.
about your experience and I hope this is not our last conversation. I would love to, uh, have more where we can talk deeper about some of the work you do and maybe about some personal experiences too. It's like in my life I've had a lot of, uh, people with addiction, in my life, and it's one of the reasons that it's so important to me to have conversations about it, right? Through the lens of bursting through and how do we show up to people, because nobody, when you talked earlier, nobody teaches us how to do these things.
Not at all.
And I stumbled my way through, you know people who I loved with all of my heart and saw them,
Yeah, it's hard.
struggling with something that was well beyond their control, and nobody teaches us how to show up.
Yeah,
So let's talk about it.
100%.
And I know I'm going to be processing and thinking and learning from you, for a long time. So thank you again. And thank you for everybody who's been listening. And you've been listening to Bursting Through. If this conversation moved you, share it, because our conversations are just the beginning. What really matters is how our actions create change. And if you're ready to take action, join the movement at burstingthrough.us. Remember, allyship is not a moment, it's a movement. Together, we are bursting through.